We'll continue on in Genesis. We're going to go to the next generation. And so we begin in Genesis chapter 25. And I'll kind of paraphrase for the first, we'll begin at verse 19. But, and it came to pass after, beginning of verse 11, and it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well at Laharai. And then I'm just going to tell you what happens for the next few chapters. The next is the generations of Ishmael, 12 sons, 12 nations. And he died in the presence of his brethren. I know that some people feel that he was translated, but he was not translated. It says clearly in the scripture that he died in the presence of all his brethren. He wasn't translated. He didn't go off somewhere and ascend up to heaven, and he was a man. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Paddan-aram, and the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And where her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sawed portage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. In verse 12 through 18, we have the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, who Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. The list of them is given here. I call your attention again to the fact that the Holy Scripture uses this method in the book of Genesis. The rejected line is given first and then set aside and not mentioned anymore. Then the line that is leading to Christ is given and followed. So it is after the line of Ishmael is given that we come to the line of Isaac. This is the line we are going to follow. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, is the way the first chapter of Matthew begins. Each of these men had other sons, as we have seen. Abraham had quite a few sons, but the genealogy of those men is not followed. It is the genealogy of Isaac that is followed. In Sunday school this morning, we learned that Midian was one of Abraham's children after Sarah died, and that Moses married into that family. It is interesting that Rebekah, like Sarah, was barren, but Isaac pleaded with God on her behalf, and now she is pregnant with twins. The struggle of these two boys, which began before their birth, represents the struggle which still goes on in the world today. There is a struggle between light and darkness, between good and evil, between the spirit and the flesh. Every child of God knows something of this struggle, which Paul sets before us in the 7th chapter of Romans. Rebekah didn't understand the struggle which was going on within her, and she went to the Lord with the question, "Why am I thus?" And the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." God makes the statement to her that the elder shall serve the younger. She should have believed it, and her younger son should have believed it as well. The name Esau means red or earth-colored because he is born first. He is considered the elder. But the elder is to serve the younger. And after that came his brother out. Isaac and Rebekah had been married for about 20 years before the children were born. Jacob took hold on Esau's heels, so they called him Jacob, meaning the usurper, because he was trying to become the elder or to take the elder's place. But God had already promised that to him. Now we will look at these two boys as they grow up in this home. Here they are twins, but no two boys are ever more different than these two. They not only struggle in the womb, but they are against each other from here on out. They have absolutely different viewpoints, different philosophies of life. Their thinking is different and their attitudes are different. At the beginning, I must confess, Esau is more attractive to me than Jacob. But we learn that one can't always judge by the outward signs. We must judge by what takes place on the inside of people. We learned that in this particular case. The boys grew. Esau was a cunning hunter, the outdoor boy, the athletic type. He is the one we would call the all-American boy. He went in for sports. He went in for everything that was physical, but he had no understanding or capacity or desire for spiritual things. He was only interested in that which was physical. He represented the flesh, represents the flesh. Jacob was a plain man. I think that you can make of that anything that you want to. He lived indoors. He was mama's boy and was tied to her apron strings. You will notice that he did what she told him to do. Here is the problem in the home. You feel that under these circumstances they are going to have trouble, and they are. When one parent is partial to one child and another parent is partial to another child, you will have trouble. That is exactly what took place here. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his venison. Esau went out hunting, and he always got something when he went out hunting. He brought home the venison. Rebekah loved Jacob. As I have said before, at this juncture, the boy Esau is much more attractive than Jacob. He seems to be a more wholesome boy. The boy Jacob is cunning. He tries to be clever. The fact of the matter is that he doesn't mind stooping to do things that are absolutely wrong. And God will deal with him for this. One of the things that I want you to understand as we go through these characters is that all too often what we have done is we make these people bigger than they are. We make them, they're important in God's eyes, but they're just people. We often say, well, I can't do this or I can't be that because I'm not good enough. But we have to come to understand is by reading about these people, we find out they're people just like you and I. They're not any better than you and I. What makes them better is that they come from a place, and if you study Jacob in this, they come from a place, or even Abraham, where in the beginning of his life in idolatry, comes from a place, and they allow God to mold them and grow them. And by allowing God to mold them and grow them, they eventually grow into a more perfect vessel. Down underneath, in Jacob, there was a desire for the things that are spiritual. It took God a long time to rub off all the debris that was on top and to remove all the corners and coverings in order to get down to where the spiritual desire was. But God finally does that. Before we are through with our study of Jacob, and this story goes almost all the way through the rest of Genesis, we will see that he was God's man all along, although he didn't demonstrate it until late in life. Again, I want to make sure you understand, these are just ordinary men. The idea that our ordinariness keeps us from serving the Lord isn't something that we have access to use. And Jacob sought portage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? This incident reveals the nature of both of these men. Esau came from the field. He had been outdoors, and he was tired. He was not starving to death, as some would imply. No one who had been brought up in the home of Abraham would starve, just as the prodigal son knew that if he returned to his father's house, he would not starve either. There would always be something for him to eat. The thing was that there was nothing prepared right at the moment but this pottage, this stew which Jacob had made. Jacob was the indoor boy. Evidently, he was a good cook. Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red, and then if you notice in the King James Version, the word pottage is in italics, but feed me with the same red pottage, because that was added by the translators. For I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Edom means red, or earthly, just as Esau does. This man asked for some of the stew that Jacob saw, and Jacob saw his chance. He is a trickster, and he wanted that birthright. He said, Sell me this day thy birthright. Let's stop and look for a minute at the value of the birthright and what it means. It means that the one who had it was the head of the house. It also means that the one who had it was the priest of the family. In this particular family, it means that the one who had it would be the one who would be in the line that would lead to Christ.